Hi, it's Katie with a book talk on Dear Martin. Dear Martin is about a teenager named Justice McAllister, and he is at the top of his class, and he has a really bright future, and everybody knows it except for the police officer that just put him in handcuffs. He's about to leave his rough neighborhood behind, but he can't escape the scorn of his former peers or the ridicule of his new classmates. So Justice looks to the teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for answers, but wonders, do they hold up anymore? And so he starts writing to Dr. King. Then Justice goes driving with his best friend Manny. They've got music turned way up, and a white off duty cop beside them gets angry about it. Words fly, shots are fired, Justice and Manny are caught in the crosshairs. And in the media, Justice is under attack. Now I'm going to read the first chapter for you of Dear Martin. From where he's standing across the street, Justice can see her. Malo Taylor, ex-girlfriend, slumped over beside her Benz in the damp concrete of the Farm Fresh parking lot. She's missing a shoe, but the contents of her purse are scattered around her, like the guts of a pulled party popper. He knows she's stone drunk, but this is too much, even for her. Just shakes his head, remembering the judgment all over his best friend Manny's face as he left Manny's house not 15 minutes ago. The walk symbol appears. As he approaches, she opens her eyes, and he waves and pulls his earbuds out just in time to hear her say, "What the hell are you doing here?" Justice asks himself the same question as he watches her try and fail to shift her knees. She falls over sideways and hits her face against the car door. He drops down and reaches for her cheek, which is as red as the candy apple paint job. "Damn, Malo, are you okay?" She pushes his hand away. "What do you care?" Stung, Justice takes a deep breath. He cares a lot, obviously. If he didn't, he wouldn't have walked a mile from Manny's house at 3 in the morning. Manny's of the opinion that Malo's the worst thing that's ever happened to Just. So of course he refused to give his boy a ride. All to keep his drunken disaster of an ex from driving. He should walk away now, Justice should. But he doesn't. "Jessa called me," he tells her. "That skank." "Don't be like that, babe. She only called me because she cares about you." Jessa had planned to take Malo home herself, but Mel threatened to call the cops and say she'd been kidnapped if Jessa didn't drop her at the car. Malo can be a little dramatic when she's drunk. "I'm totally unfollowing her," she says, case in point. "In life and online. Nosy bitch." Justice shakes his head again. "I just came to make sure you got home okay." That's when it hits Justice that while he might succeed in getting Malo home, he has no idea how he'll get back. He closes his eyes. Manny's words ring through his head. "This Captain Save-A-Ho thing is going to get you in trouble, dog." He looks Malo over. She's now sitting with her head leaned back against the car door, half asleep, mouth open. He sighs. Even drunk, just can't deny Malo's the finest girl he's ever laid eyes, not to mention hands, on. She starts to tilt, and Justice catches her by the shoulders as to keep her from falling. She startles, looking at him wide-eyed, and Just can see everything about her that initially caught his attention. Malo's dad is this Hall of Fame NFL linebacker, big black dude, but her mom is from Norway. She's got Mrs. Taylor's milky Norwegian complexion, wavy hair the color of honey, and amazing green eyes that are kind of purple around the edge. But she has this really full lips, a small waist, crazy curvy hips, and probably the nicest butt Just has ever seen in his life. That's part of his problem. He gets too tripped up by how beautiful she is. He never would have dreamed a girl as fine as her would be into him. Now he's got the urge to kiss her, even though her eyes are red, her hair is a mess, and she smells like vodka and cigarettes and weed. But when he goes to push her hair out of her face, she shoves his hand away again. "Don't touch me, Justice." She starts shifting her stuff around on the ground. Lipstick, Kleenex, tampons, one of those circular thingies with the makeup in one half and a mirror in the other, a flask. "Ugh, where are my keys?" Justice spots them in the front of the back tire and snatches them up. "You're not driving, Malo." "Give them." She swipes for the keys but fails into his arms instead. Justice props her against the car again and gathers the rest of her stuff to put it back in her bag, which is large enough to hold a week's worth of groceries. What is it with girls and purses the size of duffel bags? He unlocks the car, tosses the bag on the floor of the back seat, and tries to get Milo up off the ground. Then everything goes really wrong really fast. First, she throws up all over the hoodie Jess is wearing, which belongs to Manny, who specifically said, "Don't come back here with throw up on my hoodie." Perfect. Jess takes off his sweatshirt and tosses it in the back seat. When he tries to pick Milo up again, she slaps him. Hard. "Leave me alone, Justice," she says. "I can't do that, Mel. There's no way you'll make it home if you try to drive yourself." He tries to lift her by the armpits, and she spits in his face. He considers walking away again. He could call her parents, stick her keys in his pocket, and bounce. Oak Ridge is probably the safest neighborhood in Atlanta. She'd be fine for the 20 minutes it would take for Mr. Taylor to get here. But he can't. Despite Manny's assertion that Milo needs to suffer some consequences for once, leaving her here all vulnerable doesn't seem like the right thing to do. So he picks her up and tosses her over his shoulder. Milo responds in her usual delicate fashion. She screams and beats him on the back with her fists. Justice struggles to get the back door open and is lowering her into the car when he hears the whoop of a short siren and sees the blue lights. In the few seconds it takes for the police car to screech to a stop behind him, Justice settles Milo in the back seat. Now she's gone catatonic. Justice can hear the approaching footsteps, but he stays focused on getting Milo strapped in. He wants it to be clear to the cop that she wasn't gonna drive, so she won't be in even more trouble. Before he can get his head out of the car, he feels a tug on his shirt and is yanked backwards. His head smacks the door frame just before a hand clamps down on the back of his neck. His upper body slams into the trunk with so much force he bites the inside of his cheek and his mouth fills with blood. Jess swallows, head spinning, unable to get his bearings. The sting of cold metal around his wrist pulls him back to reality. Handcuffs. It hits him. Milo's drunk beyond belief in the backseat of a car she fully intended to drive, yet Jess is the one in handcuffs. The cop shoves him to the ground beside the police cruiser, and he asks Justice if he understands his rights. Justice doesn't remember hearing any rights, but his ears had been ringing from the 2 blows to the head, so maybe he missed them. He swallows more blood. "Officer, this is a big misunderstanding," he starts to say, but he doesn't finish because the officer hits him in the face. "Don't you say shit to me, you son of a bitch. I knew your punk ass was up to no good when I saw you walking down the road with that goddamn hood on." So the hood was a bad idea. Earbuds too. Probably would have noticed he was being trailed without them. "But officer, You keep your mouth shut." The cop squats and gets right in Justice's face. "I know your kind. Punks like you wander the streets of nice neighborhoods, searching for prey. Just couldn't resist the pretty white girl who'd locked her keys in her car, could ya?" Except that doesn't even make sense. If Mel had locked the keys in the car, Just wouldn't have been able to get her inside it, would he? Justice finds the officer's nameplate. Castillo, it reads, though the guy looks like a regular white dude. Mama told him how to handle this type of situation, though he must admit he never expected to actually need the advice. Be respectful, keep the anger in check, make sure the police can see your hands. Though that's impossible right now. "Officer Castillo, disrespect. I told your punk ass to shut up." He wishes he could see Milo, get her to tell the cop the truth, but this dude is blocking the view. "Now, if you know what's good for you, you wouldn't move or speak. Resistance will only land you in deeper shit. Got it?" Cigarette breath and flecks of spit hit Justice's face as the cop speaks, but Justice fixes his gaze on the glowing green F of the Farm Fresh sign. "Look at me when I'm talking to you, boy." He grabs Justice's chin. "I ask you a question." Justice swallows, meets the cold blue of Officer Castillo's eyes, clears his throat. "Yes, sir," he says. "I got it." If you want to hear more of this book, sign up for Dear Martin for your racial justice book clubs.